Buying an FPV drone that will last you for years doesn't just come from luck. Instead, it comes from meaningful, deliberate research. Over the past 4 years, I have personally thrown my money at countless different FPV drones, some of which were fantastic buys, and others, well, sucked. The upside from all that is that I've found what actually makes an FPV drone a fantastic purchase, and so I put together a checklist that'll ensure the drone that you want is actually a really good future-proofed purchase. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how 3 completely different drones hold up against this checklist, if beginner FPV kits are future-proof, and how this will all save you thousands. By the way, you can grab the checklist that I'm using today completely free. It's the first link in the description below. So to show you how to use it, I'm going to walk you through the 5 simple steps and break down our first drone of the day. Okay, so this is the future-proofed FPV formula. It's got 5 things that every single beginner should check before buying an FPV drone, and I've got clear steps, so there's no actual FPV experience needed. This checklist will work for everybody. First up, we have got number 1, does it match your goggles? The target here is to show, will this drone actually show video in the goggles that you have or plan to buy? If you don't have goggles, I'm going to show you what you can buy that'll help out just as much. We're first going to look at the Nazgul XL5 Eco V1.1 Success. Now, this is an iFlight drone, and it's generally a pretty well-established drone, the Nazgul series is. But what we're going to be doing is looking at this number 1 question. So to find out whether this drone is future-proofed or not, does it match your goggles? Well, let's have a look at the drone's product page and identify its video system. So first off the bat here, there's actually, there's not really much that's full coming out at me here. I can't seem to find anything straight away, so we'll scroll on down. Okay, well, we've got this thing called the Blitz 1.6 watt VTX, and for a lot of people, they have no idea what a Blitz 1.6 watt VTX is. Honestly, I don't even really know off the top of my head, but I do know what sort of system it is. I'll get to that in a moment, but we might as well just scroll down until we find a particular word. So there's nothing screaming out HD at us or anything, so let's go specifications, product name. Okay, Nazgul XL5 Eco V1.1 Success Analog. Now, analog is our video system. So we head back over here. We now know that the drone's actual video system is analog. It's not DJI, it's not Walksnail, it's not HD0 or OpenIPC. It is just analog. Now, if you've already got, I've got a freaking bug in my face. If you've already got goggles, you can search up, does goggle name work with drone name or video system? So in this case, you would do, say for example, if you had just a pair of Sky Zone goggles, I don't know any of their names, but you had a pair of Sky Zone goggles, you'd search up, do the Sky Zone XYZ work with analog? And likely in that case, the answer would be yes. If, however, you had DJI goggles already, and you looked up, oh, does DJI goggles N3 work with analog? The answer would be no. So you would actually have an incompatible drone straight off the back there. But if you have no goggles at all, you can ask, if I buy this drone, am I stuck using one video system forever? Now, of course, there are multiple different ways people can take this, but we'll keep it simple here. If you buy a DJI drone, so specifically something like a Neo, which we're going to talk about in just a moment, if you buy a Neo or if you buy a DJI air unit, so DJI 04, 04 Pro, 03, air unit, CADX, like that sort of stuff, you're going to be stuck using DJI goggles. So DJI goggles only work with DJI HD systems. That is as simple as it goes. Those systems, as a video system, do not cross-compatible or are not cross-compatible whatsoever. Now, I put down here, are you stuck using this one video system forever? Yes, because you can't add an analog module on. You can't put HD0 through it. You can't put Walksnail through it. No matter what you do, there are no options for that. But I have said here that it is currently the best video system available. So there's a trade-off. If you're willing to go for the absolute top-of-the-line video quality, yeah, this is probably a good route to go. But for most beginners, you don't need top-of-the-line video quality to start off. So instead, we'll be looking at analog, HD0, and Walksnail. And are you going to be stuck using one of these systems forever if you buy a goggle that is analog, HD0, Walksnail? Most often, no. You'll be able to buy additional modules to make your goggles compatible. So for example, there are these goggles, the HD0 Box Pro goggles, and built in, they've actually got an analog receiver as well as an HD0 receiver in there too. So no matter what, you're going to be able to always have both HD0 and analog. And then if you want to, you can also put a Walksnail VRX, so like an additional module thing, onto the front of these goggles and plug it in, and now you also have access to Walksnail. So you want to be looking and seeing, okay, is the system that I'm choosing here allowing me to move around different places? And are the goggles going to allow me to move around different places? So in this case, in the Nazgul drone, we are working with analog. Therefore, the goggles that we need to be able to support analog. If it's an HD0 goggles that has analog support built in, go for it. If it's a Walksnail goggle and you're buying an additional part to put an analog receiver in it, go for it. But yeah, if it's DJI specifically, it's DJI only. We'll get there though. So the checklist here is your video system identified, the goggles are compatible, and you're not locked into one system. That brings us on to number 2. So, will it work with your controller? Now, this is a pretty big one. If your controller can't connect to the drone, you're not going to be able to fly it at all. There's just nothing else you can do. You can't just, well, you could look at your drone. It could be a paperweight, but you don't want that. I don't want that. But you want to get up and flying. So, the action steps here. Find the receiver type listed in the drone specs. ELRS, FrSky, Crossfire, or DJI. Something along those lines. Now, if we go to the top of this page, you're going to see we have receiver options. Without an RX, TBS Crossfire, iFlight ELRS, and 865 to 900 milliwatt, and ELRS at 2.4 gigahertz. And if you're choosing ELRS, here's what I'm going to recommend. Keep it simple and just go for 2.4 on everything. Keep it simple. Now, if you're instead going to be sticking with Crossfire, go with Crossfire. In this particular case, there is no other option to come pre-installed with any other thing other than Crossfire or ELRS, which is perfectly fine. You can get the without RX and put your own RX in there if you're using a protocol like FrSky, but avoid FrSky and FlySky and anything other than ELRS or Crossfire. Realistically, you're just going to find that they have crap range, they're more expensive, they're harder to, well, they're not necessarily more expensive, they're just going to be more expensive in the long run because you're going to want to upgrade. So you're going to want to get something that is ELRS or Crossfire. That is TBS Crossfire, and many different brands make ELRS. To know whether or not it's going to work with your controller, you're going to need to look up what controller you have and what you bought it with. So if I bring up the Radio Master Pocket Radio, which is something that a lot of you guys will have or will be looking into buying, you're going to see there is an ELRS version and a CC 2500 option. Don't get that. Choose the ELRS, stick with ELRS for the long run, and it is currently speaking the most widely adopted, probably the best system out there, the best protocol. Now, this region completely depends on where in the world you are. For most of you, just choose FCC, but if you, I think it's Europe or whatever, you might need to do LBT. Okay, so in this case, we're looking at ELRS. Our remote controller is ELRS. So therefore, if I'm looking over here, I'm going to be choosing the ELRS option. That's good. That means that, yeah, my receiver type is confirmed. My controller does support this protocol. ELRS to ELRS needs to be the same. And I've also chosen ELRS for future compatibility. All right, over to number 3 of future-proof or finding a future-proof drone. Number 3, can you easily get replacement parts? All right, you're going to crash, and will you be able to fix it without rage quitting or breaking the bank? Action step 1. We love this. This is something you probably want to go to do on FPV store pages like Pyrodrome, Get FPV, Race Day Quads. Look for linked or listed parts. You're going to want to find props, you're going to find motors, the frame parts or ducts if you've got them, and the camera. Go by model name, not necessarily the brand. And yeah, a bit of a tip here. You're not going to often find these by searching for the drone name. Instead, look at what parts are listed in the description, or alternatively, go to the manufacturer's official store and search around there. That's something that I do. I quite often will just go to the manufacturer's store and just buy spare parts from there because I know for a fact they're going to work, especially because they're generally linked together. So in this case, action step 1, check part availability. What we'll actually do is see if part availability is available on iFlight store. That's a good first stage. And looking here, okay, Nazgul, great, additional suggested parts. Well, this kind of brings it straight in here. We know for a fact that this here is likely going to be a motor that works with it. And for $15, it's not too bad for a motor price, actually. If we scroll along, we've got replacement arms, we've got a replacement ESC. What else we got along here? We've got a whole stack replacement, and it's not crazy pricing either. New antenna, okay, well look, we've certainly got parts available, and that's just on iFlight stores, so they're likely on other stores as well. That then moves us on to action step number 2, evaluate the repairability. Now, this is where you're going to need to look at replacement part costs. Are they plug and play for the motors? Are the frame parts modular or just like a solid one singular frame? And can you easily access the USB port and receiver for connecting up to Betaflight? So let's have a little gaze. If we look on over here, we're sort of starting to see by looking at this drone that it's not an all-in-one. So we've got screws here, and we also saw from before that the arms here are also replaceable. Then we have a little look for those ports as well. I think I can see a port on the side right about there. So this here is a port by the looks of it, which makes life very easy because it means it's extremely simple to connect up to Betaflight. You don't have to undo crap and you can just access it straight away. And then the last thing we want to look at here is, are the motors plug and play or do they require soldering? In this case, I'm going to assume that the motors are not plug and play. I say that because it's all covered up and it's very likely. If we look at the ESC here, you can see that there are these little points on the ends here. Those are solder points. They're not plugs, which means you can't get your drone motors and just plug them in. That's actually okay. Most of the time, you're not going to get that feature, but there are some drones which we're going to get to that do offer that. So in this particular case, we've found props, motors, frames, spare parts. Great, that's easy. We know we have them. We've also confirmed how the motors are connected because, you know, if it's super complicated and you don't know how to do it and it's going to stress you out, you wouldn't get that drone. Then you've also got easy access to the ports and the wiring. In this case, yes, you do. And the estimated repair costs are pretty damn reasonable. Like, if you look at these, yeah, we're not talking crazy prices here whatsoever. So that brings us on to step number 4 out of 5. Is it beginner appropriate? Will this drone help you learn and build confidence, or is it just going to frustrate you and break things? Well, this is a pretty good point where you actually need to understand where you're going to be flying and the environment that you're flying within. So, action step 1, match the drone to your flight location plans. Are you planning on only flying indoors and maybe a little bit of outdoors? If indoor is in there, you cannot be getting this drone. No chance. This drone is like this big. You're not going to be flying that thing indoors. You want to do outdoor only flying, then get a 3-inch and a 5-inch. This here is a 5-inch FPV drone. We can see that it's an XL5. The 5 there stands for 5-inch. And then the other part is, you know, you're going to be doing cinematic flying. Is it camera mountable? Sometimes a 7-inch is okay, but it's not ideal for beginners. Realistically, if you break a 7-inch, you crash a 7-inch, it's way more expensive and they're not made for crashing and freestyling. So, cinematic flying is a camera mountable drone, meaning can we slap a GoPro? Well, there's literally a GoPro on it, so yes, you can slap a GoPro on it or Osmo Action, whatever you're using. Then we move over to action step number 2. Check the frame and the ducts if it has ducts. So ducted is generally speaking better for indoor flying. Again, you're not going to be flying this drone indoors. So if this is an indoor drone for you, not a good choice. You're immediately failing number 4. If you're talking outdoors though, great, now we're talking, because we've got a carbon fiber frame. You can kind of see it in the arms here. This is a rendered version, but it's the same vibe. This is a pretty damn solid drone. You're not going to, most 5-inch drones are going to be carbon fiber frames. So they're usually durable, but they can crack after smaller crashes. It is just the nature of them. But don't go for something like a toothpick drone, because a toothpick drone is made to be as fast and as thin and as very lightweight as possible, and they're going to break a lot easier. And we'll talk about flexible plastic very shortly. So is it beginner appropriate for you? Well, in this case, if you're flying indoors, no, not at all. It absolutely fails that step completely. But if you're flying outdoors, yeah, this seems like a pretty reasonable option. There's nothing that's screaming at me saying, no, it's not. So the drone type suits my flying? Yeah. The drone and flight environment work well together? Yeah, I'm flying at a park away from people. Very good. Drone matches my learning goal? Yeah, I think it does, because I'm not going to be trying indoor flying with it. I'm just going outdoors, and I do want to do a bit of cinematic flying with it. So yeah, I'm trying to learn how to be a cinematic pilot, or I'm trying to learn how to freestyle. Therefore, it does match my learning goal. That then moves us on to stage number 5. Is there good community support? When something doesn't work, can you find help fast? So there's a few things you can do here. The first is to search up on Reddit, YouTube, or Discord. Just search up the drone name setup. So in this case, it would be Nazgul XL5 Eco setup. Nazgul XL5 Eco ELRS bind, Nesgal XL5, Eco, review, First Flight. Try and find an abundance of posts, threads, or videos from real FPV pilots, and try and find if there's any threads within Discord or Reddit that you can reference and look at and be like, oh, maybe I don't want this drone, maybe it's not quite for me. Or go and watch yourself, or go and watch a YouTube video and a review. Try to find an unbiased one. I know it's reasonably difficult, but there's some great people out there. You've got Joshua Bardwell and Madstech. They are very real human beings. They're going to give you exactly what's right and exactly what's wrong with the drone. So go and watch a video from them if they've got it, and if they have got one and it's positive, it's probably a really good drone. So keep that in mind. You don't want to be buying a drone that A, has got a bunch of negative stuff about it, or B, has got absolutely nothing said about it. Not positive or negative, it just doesn't seem to exist. Because if that's the case, then I don't know if that drone really exists, or maybe it's just by some random company that is, not going to be around for very long. Find established brands, that sort of thing. So the checklist here is found positive reviews. Yep, we talked about that, ideally non-sponsored. Found a setup or a bind video, very helpful if you need to set up or bind your drone. And then drone is talked about in forums or comments. To have the conversation, make sure it actually exists. That then leaves us with the final tip. If the drone passes all 5 of these checks, which in this case, the Nesgal XL5 Eco has, it's compatible with my goggles and my controller, it's easy to repair, it's matched to my current skill level, it's supported by other flyers, and it's ready to grow with me, it is a smart, future-proofed buy. But not everything is rainbows like that. That's a very, very niche drone, and I picked that one because I personally have it, and I love it, and it's a fantastic first 5-inch drone. But what we're going to do is restart this formula and go through it a lot faster with the DJI Neo. So in this case, we've got just the Neo itself. We're not buying a Fly More combo or anything like that. We're just getting the Neo on its own. Does it match my goggles? Well, in this case, we know for a fact that the DJI Neo is DJI, so therefore it runs DJI systems. So if we have a look here, we can pretty quickly see that the Fly More combo comes with the DJI Goggles N3, which means it's obviously compatible. And if we scroll down the top accessories, yep, there we go. They're also selling the DJI Goggles 3, which in this case are their top of the line goggles. So we know for a fact that they work with the Goggles 3 or they work with the Goggles N3. The Goggles N3 are the cheaper option here. If you don't have either of those goggles, this drone's probably not going to work with them. And when I say probably, you're not going to be able to get it to work. If you have HD goggles, analog goggles, even Goggles 2, maybe, Goggles 2 might work, but Goggles V2 from DJI will not work with this. I guarantee that for a fact. So you got to figure out, are you going to buy those goggles and be within the DJI ecosystem? If yes, are you happy to be locked into that ecosystem? Good. If you're not happy to be locked into that ecosystem, then it fails this first stage here, okay? So, moving forwards, will it work with your controller? If you have any form of an ELRS, Crossfire, FlySky, anything, any controller other than the DJI FPV Remote Controller 3, you cannot fly this drone. There is no ELRS support. There's no way to add ELRS in. There's no way to add Crossfire in. A DJI drone specifically only works with a DJI remote controller. That is as simple as it goes. That is not to say that if you get a DJI Air unit or an O4 or an O3 unit, that can't work with another controller, because it can. You can put them individually in. So in this case, I have still got my pocket radio. It's ELRS, which therefore I've confirmed that the receiver type is a DJI receiver. My controller does not support this protocol, and it's not ELRS for future compatibility. It's failed number 2. If we go down to number 3, can you easily get replacement parts? Well, let's have a little look. If we go to the Neo, and we're on the official store here, so likely this is the only parts you can buy for it. What accessories have we got? We got flight batteries, we got chargers, charging hubs, okay. Let's just search it up. Okay, looks like we've got some stuff on AliExpress. Don't really trust that sort of stuff too much. We've got batteries, we got propellers, so that's an upside. We can replace the propellers. We got propeller guards. Oh great, we got some additional landing gear and a new gimbal protector. We do not have, realistically, except for on AliExpress, which isn't super reputable. You have no spare motors, no spare frames, except for the little mesh bits, no spare cameras, nothing. So therefore, in this particular case, it's failing action step 1. We can't get easy replacement parts. What about repairability? Are the motors plug and play? Is the frame, parts modular? Can you access the USB port? Are replacement parts expensive? Well, we've already established that replacement parts do not exist. And if we have a look here, oh, would you look at that? The Neo appears to be an entirely singular frame except for the prop guards. And that to me means there is no repairability. It is failed number 3 as well. Let's go down to number 4. Is it beginner appropriate? Is it going to help you learn and build confidence, or is it just going to frustrate you and break things? Let's see, indoor and outdoor flying. Honestly, this is probably the most similar thing to a tiny whoop. This can be indoors and outdoors. Primarily outdoors and slightly bigger indoor spaces. So maybe in my case, I want to fly indoors. Yeah, let's switch it up. I want to fly indoors and outdoors. Yeah, okay, cool. It's got this one. Yeah, I'm sweet. I'm happy. It's ducted. It's flexible plastic, so it's usually lighter and more crash resistant. Sure. In which case, it's got number 4 in the bag. I'm happy with that. That's great. We've achieved one thing. Is there good community support? Look, I can tell you without even needing to search it up right now that yes, this is indeed, you've got setups, you've got no ELRS bind, but you've got binding, you've got reviews, you've got first flights, you've got people loving this thing, people hating this thing. There's positive reviews and they're non-sponsored. Joshua Bardwell, Mads Tech, myself as well on this one. There is a lot around. So there is great community support. You could definitely get this thing up and running if it isn't working. But if we go and look at this, it, in my case, doesn't match my goggles because I don't have DJI goggles. It doesn't work with my controller because I don't have a DJI controller. It doesn't get replacement parts. It is beginner appropriate and it is good community support, but it's got 2 out of 5, meaning it's a fail for a future-proofed drone. That now brings us onto the most commonly asked questions about FPV kits. Whoop-de-way. So I'm going to use the Cetus X FPV kit, one of the more popular FPV drone kits that you can buy. A kit comes with the remote, it comes with the goggles and the drone, and I think it comes with a couple of batteries. A couple of batteries in there as well as a charger. So, hey, not too bad at all, okay? Now, I want to state right off the bat, there is a Cetus flight controller and a Beta flight controller. You're gonna want the Beta flight controller, and I'm gonna very quickly show you why. The Cetus flight controller comes with FlySky D8, which means it's not ELRS. The Beta flight one comes with the ELRS. That on its own should be a freaking deal breaker. But it gets a little bit worse. You got a worse VTX inside of it, so it only goes to 350 milliwatts, which is the power, the range, the penetration, versus the Beta flight one at 400 milliwatts. And the real kicker is Beta FPV configurator. I've never used it in my life, and I probably never will. In comparison to Betaflight's configurator. Betaflight is the most commonly used, widely available configurator. You'd want that one. So in this case, the Betaflight flight controller version is 100% the one you'd want to go for. Does it match our goggles? Well, in this case, we already know that it comes with goggles. So I don't even need to look at that, right? The kit will come with goggles that works with the freaking drone. And if it didn't, that's a stupid ass kit and it shouldn't even exist. The goggles that comes with this is the VR03 FPV goggles. We're gonna search up, are the VR03 FPV goggles analog? Let's see. Those goggles are analog, great. So then if we look at the VTX, we've got an M04 250, or sorry, 25 to 400 milliwatt VTX, great, okay. I am going to only assume that this is, man, companies really don't like to say that they're using analog, do they? In this case, you're gonna have to go off of Beta FPV's website again and go, let's just go DVR. So that's straight from the drone to the goggles. This is great. I can see right here that this is analog video. You can tell just by the quality, and yeah, it's 100% analog. Now he's also using the VR03. We can see it's got that little antenna up the top there. If we're looking here, it's got that right here. Plus, he's also flying with the same remote that comes with the kit. So all that to say that number one, it does match our goggles, and number two, it does work with our controller. And we established earlier going with the Betaflight flight controller version, it comes with ELRS. Big goodness. Moving on to number 3, can you easily get replacement parts? Now, if we head on here, what are we looking at? Let's see, we've got immediately off the bat, buy this bundle and save, we can see that we've got a whoop frame for $9, that's great, which means you can get a whole new frame. If we go down, even better, under Beta FPV's site, on the same page, they have got each of the individual parts all listed out with actual, I can go to the motors. Cool, these motors are $40 for 4, which is pretty good, that's $10 a motor, that seems reasonably reasonable. New props, let's see what we got there. Yeah, great, $2.50 for 4 props, that's pretty reasonable as well. So we know for a fact that, yeah, we can easily get replacement parts, and we can also now have a look at action step 2 and see, are they expensive? Well, we know they're not expensive. Is the frame modular? Not particularly, to be honest. This frame seems to be an all-in-one sort of frame. But what we can see is that this one singular frame here is offered to us as a completely separate whoop frame, which means you can buy a new frame and it's pretty damn cheap at $9 US. So that's kind of a little bit of a, yeah, it's an all-in-one, but you can swap it pretty damn simply. And then the other part are the motors plug and play, or do they require soldering? Well, if we have a look, there might be something that shows us, but likely the one way that you can go and see this is by going to the motors, looking at the motors. Normally, if something comes with a plug, it's kind of a feature, and so therefore they will show that it has a plug. So in this case, you got to solder. If you can't solder, well, that's going to be a problem in the long run, but you'll learn. All right, that means, yeah, can you get replacement parts easily? Yeah, I'm pretty confident in that. Is it beginner appropriate? That's the next question. It's a reasonably small size drone. We can look at the size of the drone in comparison to the remote controller. Remote controller is probably about hand size, and the drone's probably, yeah, more or less that size. It's going to be fine to fly inside, and it also has got some nice flexible plastic, but it's ducted too, which means when you smash around and hit crap inside, it's not going to break and frickin' break other things as well. That means does the drone type suit my flying? In this case, yeah, indoors and outdoors. The drone and flight environment work well together? Yeah, it's going to work pretty well together, and the drone matches my learning goal. Look, I just want to have some fun, get out and learn how to fly. Does this drone allow for that? Yeah, it allows for that by allowing me to fly inside and outside, both whenever I want. So, great news. 5th, is there good community support? Well, let's have a look ourselves. So, drone name setup. Beautiful. So, straight off the bat, this guy's got 140 subs. Great. We've got a bunch of positive comments on there. There's manuals, there's Captain Drone, RC with Adam, John Cuppy, like even Oscar Lang, which is a very reputable person in the FPV space. He's got a review on it. And then I found setup and bind videos, and the drone is talked about in forums. Let's just have a look. Wouldn't buy, started out and it was garbage. Okay, maybe not a good idea then. Almost immediately we look for bigger and better gear. Well, this is why we look at Reddit, ladies and gentlemen. Great kit for people just getting into the hobby. Sure, this is maybe a 50-50 in this particular case, all right? So maybe you would say no in that case, which means that, yeah, it matches the goggles, it works with the controller, it can easily get replacement parts, it's beginner appropriate, but it fails the community support, it fails the reviews. In that case, I probably wouldn't be buying it. So it is not a smart future-proof buy. Now, I can back this up. If we go and we look at the goggles themselves, and we didn't do this before, by the looks of it, you can't actually plug anything into it, which means it's not going to work with, you know, HD0, it's not going to work with walk snail, there's no HDMI input. Maybe the goggles aren't super future-proof. And what about the remote? Let's see the remote. So the remote is Express LRS. Okay, cool, sure. And looking at it, I mean, it looks okay. It's even got a module on the back, which is kind of good news. You know, I'd look up a review of it, see what people are saying about it. Maybe that's a fine way to start. With the lack of community support, I would be saying that no, I don't think that kits are necessarily the perfect future-proofed FPV drone. It's the only way you get into the hobby. Damn well do it and just upgrade later, but be prepared to upgrade later. Okay? Be prepared. Now, I do want to just remind you, you can download this entire checklist completely free. There's a link just down in the description box below. But I do want you to be aware, because buying a future-proofed FPV drone doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to make much of a difference if, you know, you quit in your first month of the FPV drone journey. So this video here is going to make sure that that doesn't happen for you by showing you the most common FPV drone mistakes that beginners make while flying, and of course, exactly how to fix them. See you over there very, very soon.